Thank you. Here we go.
You know, Marcelo, we also have a Manscaped device in our bathroom. There's only 2 devices allowed in our bathroom counter. One is our toothbrushes, and the other one is a Manscaped device. And it's partly because it looks so amazing. Like the product design is fantastic. So congratulations on that.
That's good to hear.
It is not lost on me that we have been speaking a lot about AI, which to a certain degree feels unhuman, I think. And so I want to start with the human element. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? It's not a typical marketer's background. So I would love to share with the audience today a little bit about kind of your journey in the space.
It's a little bit of a crazy journey, I would admit. But I started as a creative back in Brazil, as you can see by my weird accent. By the way, sometimes I have a nightmare that I'm going to lose my English in a place like this.
I gotcha. We're in this together.
I hope it doesn't happen. But I started as a creative. I was always super curious about like the strategy and the business side of things. And it was very difficult to break through as a creative to get to the business side of things to our clients. We had like huge, amazing clients in Brazil, but I still felt that I didn't get enough exposure. So I ended up doing political marketing for a while. I ended up doing like 7 presidential campaigns in 5 different countries. We won 6 out of the 7, so good.
Congratulations, that's a pretty good track record.
And it was a great place to understand and to learn the strategic side of creative, to be also more on the production side of things, get a really intense exposure to the marketing and creative endeavors in general. And with a very tough bar, because I like to say that from a business perspective, if you get a brand and you take from a 5% market share to 20% is a major win. In the political world, if you don't get to 50 plus 1 vote, is as good as none. So we have to be like really intense. And so anyway, after all those years in political marketing, I came to the US actually to take a break from it all because it was about to break me. And we decided to stay, me and my family, and that's how I ended up at Manscaped, first as a creative, taking care of product design, packaging, content, digital, all the advertising, and everything that had a creative touch to it. And then more recently, like about 2 years ago, I became Chief Marketing Officer at Manscaped, but still we run marketing and creative together, which is great because we have like a lot of friction. No, a lot of good exchange of ideas.
I like that. It's a good spin.
Yes.
Well, maybe for the audience, maybe not everyone is familiar with Manscaped. Can you give us a little bit of what is it? Why does it matter? Why should Father's Day is coming? Perhaps a gift idea?
Quick disclaimer, we're going to have to talk about balls. So I need to say it out there so it kind of... So Manscaped, for those who are not familiar with the brand, started at 2017. It's a pretty young company, but with rapid growth. Our claim to fame, like what made us famous first, was developing the technology to take care of the groin, of the private parts of men.
Okay.
I think, but most importantly, was not about just developing the tools, but actually promoting like a better care down there, which I think a lot of partners appreciate. And then
I like the benefits for both. That's great. Okay.
I mean, yes.
Good job.
And from there, we are expanding, like we call internally, we're expanding beyond the groin. We have like beard trimmers, shavers, routines for men. And yeah, so that's Manscaped in a nutshell.
I love it.
Sorry.
All puns intended.
It's just a
no
bad
puns
English.
intended.
I apologize.
You shared with me that you guys have humor in your brand, and why not, right? Can we have some fun along the way? So that's fantastic. Yeah. All right. So our topic here today is around AI's impact on creative innovation. And I understand that you brought a little bit of a video for us to kind of get us into the ideas.
I did. I think it's a great way to kind of maybe introduce the brand. This is our latest brand piece, and I can talk a little bit after that, but maybe we can see it first. It's called The Boys.
Forever you and me, right by my side, where you ought to be. 'Cause if I ever were to lose you, me hear you now.
That's first off, that's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
How fun is that?
It was a pretty fun campaign to make, and it was not done by AI. This was like what we call age S, maybe human silliness, not artificial intelligence. But the interesting thing I think that connects with our talk today about creative and AI is that we created this world where your boys are represented by those two boys, and we have a lot of demand for content, for organic social, for paid media, for wherever, all the other places that we need to activate, and then like trying to create some of those images and this like the unfolding of this world through AI has been like an interesting journey. First, because it's very hard to use prompts that have balls or groins or anything like that. It's like a no-no, and all the tools like kind of block it out there. But we found our way to break through. One of our team members here, Edgar, has been great at developing the boys through AI, and it's been quite a journey.
Wait, is that like a term that's recognized by the AI engines now?
No,
Oh.
not yet. Maybe if we train our model enough, we'll get there, but we're not there. Yeah, we're
Got
not there
it.
yet. We have to do a lot of turnarounds. But I think what that highlights, I mean, for me as a creative, and marketer, I think, and that has been said a few times today here, the speed that those tools give you for exploration, that's what I think is the most amazing kind of upside of all this revolution that we are kind of experiencing. I, being a little older, remember when I was becoming a creative, computers were still new to that task, and in a way, it was a similar kind of moment where it gave you so much speed to experiment things and to do more. And because I really believe that good creative comes from a large exploration, so you can pick the very, very best of the ideas.
Yeah.
So being able to explore more and faster, I think it's a huge advantage, and that's where I think our team is kind of enjoying playing around with all the tools that come every day.
I love that. Let's dig in on that. So Contentful just did a study on generative AI, and one of the pieces of information that we were trying to tap into is how are marketers leveraging AI? Like, what jobs are you using to actually have it support and how you're working? So can you share a little bit at Manscaped, what are some of the places, some of the jobs in which you're leveraging generative AI?
Yeah. So first, like we don't have yet like established process for the use of AI. So right now it's individuals in the creative team and marketing team that are taking the initiative and bringing tools. What we are doing is from time to time we meet to exchange best practices.
Yep.
And I mean I'm amazed, and like my mind is blown every day by the new tools and the new things that are available. But the most recurrent use that I see is one is to kind of explore copy, for marketing in all fronts, because I think again it is able to generate more, so you can make better choices from a bigger pool of ideas. And honestly, I also think the AI is really good at keeping a much better memory than we have. So if you are trying to bring like aspects of a product to kind of highlight on copy, it's less prone to forgetting, interesting aspects that might kind of, oh, this is a good one to touch on. And but I do believe that if there's not the human element, at least for now, there to kind of curate and to select and to understand and make like the choice between what's good and what's not, then it gets a little lost. But yeah, that's kind of how we use. And then on the creative side, a lot of image generation, but also short animations are starting to pop up, and even like explorations in voices and other things.
Yeah. At Contentful, we see a lot of our customers and organizations using it for translation. And it
That's
tends
the
to
one.
do a pretty good job at translation. Is that an area that you guys are exploring or thinking about?
I mean, I don't know exactly like because I haven't touched base with the team on that, but I've had some experiences myself, and like to your point, I think not only it translates to the language, but if you specify a certain, like for example, Portuguese, right? We have Portuguese in Portugal, Portuguese in Brazil, Portuguese in Indonesia. If you specify that you want Portuguese from Brazil, it's different, and you can even go to a region. I've tried that, and it's the for those things. I think it brings a much more natural translation. Yes,
Yeah.
and it's a powerful. Like we are in over 40 countries. We do have the necessity of like speaking multiple languages, and it's a powerful tool.
I mean, I've talked to so many marketing leaders who have multi-million-dollar budgets for translation alone. If this can even help put a dent in that so that you can go use that money in more effective ways, like that's a way that it could potentially, take your resources further.
Yeah,
as an
no, I agree.
organization.
I agree. And I think that's the tonic of it is right. It's kind of taking the money and the time away from the repetitive and predictive tasks, as the name of the tool,
Yeah.
itself says, and freeing you up to have like the more disruptive and the things that are really going to make a difference through through the human element. But
Yeah.
yes, I agree, and I think it's
All right, so we've talked a little bit about kind of jobs to be done. Maybe let's talk about kinds of content where you think it's good versus kinds of content where maybe you would be a little bit more cautious. And I'll go back to data.
okay.
One of the pieces of data that we got out of the study that we did was that 44% of organizations are already using it to write product descriptions. And this one is sort of this taboo topic. When I talk to marketing leaders, they oftentimes say, we would never use, generative AI to write our product description. That needs to be in our voice. We need to own every single word on the screen. And then I recently saw one of our customers, Ruggable, use it exactly for producing product descriptions. So they have a new capability that's coming out where you can upload a picture of your screen of your room, and they will recommend a rug to you, or actually several rugs to you. And then they tailor the product description based on the elements of that rug, plus what is the design of your room. And I'm like, this feels kind of genius. And it felt personalized and tailored to me in that moment. Like as a consumer, I responded to that. So I'm curious, are there certain kinds of content that you guys hold true where you're avoiding using it, and other areas where you are leaning in? Like, do you guys have any principles or guidelines?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any set principles yet. Like we are a young company, and I think that in that sense, I was listening to people talk about the legal internal battles. I think our legal team has been pretty cool with it so far.
You still have a spirit of experimentation, maybe?
Yeah, maybe we don't share too much, but yes. But I do think that one, there is this the comment you made on people saying, no, I would never. There's a lot of I would never. To come here today, I would use ChatGPT and say, hey, what should I say, in a place like this with this audience. It didn't
Any
give
good
great
nuggets?
ideas. Nah,
No.
not really. But I tried. But anyway, I do think that again, it's always worth exploration. There's always something interesting there. I think the mistake is when you kind of just copy and paste and not use your common sense to either build the prompts correctly or to evaluate the outcome, right? So that's kind of where I think there might be some loss. But I think we as a society we're always like self-regulating in a way. So if the message starts to become too mechanic and too kind of it will be perceived as such. And also too inflated. One day I was doing just for fun. I had like five ideas on a topic that I was going to present, and I said, hey, can you expand this into a full presentation and all that? So ChatGPT did like make that 5 bullets into this long. Can you now turn this into a PowerPoint presentation? And build the PowerPoint presentation. I looked at it, downloaded, I inserted into Claude and said, can you summarize this for me? Because I don't want to read through all of this. And he gave me the 5 points again. So it might be
the same 5 points or 5 different ones?
it was pretty similar. It did miss a little bit, but it was there. So I think the point is, if we start overusing in a way, I think, we are going to, like, the tools are also going to help us summarize and cut to the chase, right? So the core message, it's still important. It's still the most relevant things. But I do think that there's a lot of channels where, that kind of expansion of that core bullet into different formats for different audiences or for different contexts might be very valuable. I think, it's always going to have, we're always going to have the need for, for fast food and like high-end dining. I think it's never going to be one or the other, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think there's space for both.
You started to touch on it. Maybe we can spend a little time discussing it. The idea of assisting how you work versus autonomously running all on its own, right? Like, go do this task and with no human oversight.
Yeah.
How do you think about that? How do you give guidance to your team on when and how they should be leveraging it, and when to let it run on its own versus when do you actually have to still put the human element on, a touch on it?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't got to that part yet. I don't see, like, at least the outcome of the work that when we explore with AI tools so far. I'm yet to see something that is completely generated by the tool and not and doesn't have like the human element to it. So far we didn't have to give a lot of guidance. But one thing that I think is very interesting as a byproduct of at least the image generation tools, for example, is it's forcing creatives to articulate better what they want, right? Because to do a good prompt, you need to understand like all the elements that you are trying to bring. Otherwise, it's kind of trial and error, and it then becomes boring again. So I see people understanding better photography, prompting the lens, the camera angles, the lighting, the styles, the references, and that is also making, in my opinion, people study more about like what they want, and be able to put to words things that maybe they did by instinct before. So there's like some nice, interesting byproducts of that usage of AI for creative endeavors.
But isn't that one of the reasons of what makes marketers great is the creative aspect? It's the idea of like, what is the tone? What is the message? What's the inspiration that we want to build into XYZ? Like, that is what you all do great. And you still have that opportunity to
Totally
be a key part of that process, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because if you don't know where you want to go, it's just going to take you there faster, and you're going to be lost faster, which I don't think is a good idea. So,
no, or it's going to be generic because you didn't actually give me a picture of a dog in a park.
Yeah.
That's not enough.
That's not enough.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. But one thing that I also think is an interesting byproduct, if you are, if you have your good intentions and if you keep your eyes open, is we talk about hallucinations sometimes, and when the AI goes totally off. But a lot of times that sparks something else for creative that can be used. So I think one of the other byproducts of using those tools is that there is a level of unpredictability. Again, with using the word that it's in the core of that tool, but that if you are paying attention and if you have an open mind and in a curious mind, you can find like really happy accidents. Like sometimes it gives you totally off image that sparks something else, and then you go into something new and exciting. So
yeah, let's dig in there. So it's not lost on me that probably one of your key use cases, your customer journeys, is a commerce use case, right? People are coming to your site to buy a product.
Yeah.
How do you think about, maybe fast forward, let's predict the future, because that's so easy to do. Like, our customers, our consumers, are we going to get to a point down the road where people where it's just going to be like so personalized and automated that it's only serving up the content that we've shown interest in the past, that we're only going to get just kind of this circle of what you've clicked on or paused on in the past? Like what's going to happen to consumer demand? Is there still a need to inspire and motivate?
Yeah, and that's a great deep question. Can I order 2 beers so we can?
Yeah, you know what? I'm a white wine girl, but sure.
Okay. But yes, because I think this is super interesting, and especially like in politics. Going back to politics for a second, we see how all the algorithms, which in a way, it's an AI, in its earlier form, uh, creating those bubbles where you only get fed ideas and things that you already are prone to like the Netflix recommendations, Amazon recommendations. That becomes your political issues or the things that get served to you. And I think that's a real danger, right? And it's pretty comfortable to stay within that bubble because everything is so like, oh, everyone thinks like me, right? But like we were talking before, it's kind of, I feel like it's like traveling. Like you need, as humans, we need to explore different things, different worlds, see different things. So I think that this will be at some point there will be like a, I don't know what's the best word for that, but I think we're going to go in the opposite direction for a little bit to break through the barriers of what gets served to us. Because at the same time that all this predictability keeps us in a very kind of comfortable place, I think we're going to feel the need to explore and go back to seeing what's out there again. I see that also, for example, with all the profusion of images that we see, both with like digital capture means before and today with AI tools, how there's a comeback, especially on younger generations, to film, like to having the time and to taking that 36 and waiting to be developed and all those things. I think it's a human need that when we get too much of something, we tend to feel a little discomfort too.
Maybe I'll ask you a little bit of a, yes, agree. Maybe I'll ask you a little bit of a marketer's ethical question. Is it a leader of a marketing organization's job to be thinking about the balance between like leaning so far into personalization and automation versus the still creating room for experimentation and this idea of creativity?
I think, but I think, I mean, for both reasons, right? I think for ethical reasons, but also from a business perspective, I think it serves the business better. I think that the balance between, the more performance functional serving the information in its better, like perfect place in the perfect time is important. And for people who are really looking for that product and they want to, do that transaction as efficiently as possible, it's one thing. But also, we as a brand need to establish, an emotional connection with our audience. We need to have those moments where it's not about, getting that perfect placement, but it's more about like, hey, let's spark good conversations, like create emotional bonds, and let's promote, like, for example, better personal habits like shaving your balls.
Love it. I
I
have
had
one
to say
last
balls
question,
again,
and then I want to open it up to the audience. So get your questions ready. In my house, my husband is a television writer working for Marvel, and so you guys can imagine the dinner conversations that we have between television writers and wanting to have control over the creative process and the rise of generative AI in the world of my work. This is like our religious debate in our house.
I imagine.
How do you think about like bringing your team on this journey with you and getting your team to embrace generative AI and feel like they're not, in competition with it, but in collaboration with it? Like, how do you set that tone? How do you bring them on that journey of true change management?
I think so far has been by what's going, like the experiments that we have made so far, I think have shown that it is not about replacing creative. It's not about like substituting people. It's more about being able to do more and faster, so you can select the very best of what you do, or like I said, have the time to explore more disruptive, creative. Even like think even further ahead. I think we don't have, because of, we are not like one, we are a pretty young company, so it's not like we have 50 years of like of intellectual property out there in the world that we now feel that we are being robbed of it by the tools that are mimicking our tone. but I do empathize with some of like those questions. I have a good friend in Brazil that he's a great writer. He wrote more than 50 books, and I was trying to get a copy in his style, and I asked ChatGPT to use his style, and it did such a great job. I was scared for him. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy.
Welcome to my life.
Yeah. Well, and also one funny aspect about working at Manscaped with those tools is we were working on a product name, and our company is called Manscaped, and we wanted a product that had a man in it because we have like the handyman, which is like a shaver and all that. So I asked ChatGPT to help me like spark some ideas, and it did a great job. And like 20 more, and I always say please. By the way, please, can you? Oh, those are great, but I have this relationship. I have to be polite. I don't know why. But then I went to Gemini to see, like, let's see a second opinion, right?
Yeah.
And I asked him, can you help me names that has men in it? We are not here to promote gender. Like it schooled me on I should not do names with men. I'm like, no, but look, it's a company called Manscaped. It makes sense. We only sell to men. That's our whole thing. Still, I'm not gonna do, and he didn't do it.
Okay, it's principled.
It's very principled, but I mean, I didn't agree, but I had to just go to ChatGPT, which is much more liberal. And
What's nice is there's a lot of different models out there, so
Yes.
you can pick and choose.
Yes.
All right, what questions do we have for Marcelo today?
Actually, I have one more. First of all, you spoke perfectly good English. That I don't know what
Thank
you're
you.
talking about. Amazing, really, really amazing brand. Just one question around. You seem to have a very, like you said, man in the name. Like this is an industry. It's what I don't know how you define yourself. Is it a hair removal industry? Is it hygiene industry? Do you guys see kind of continuing to be that focused on this one singular direction, or do you see expansion?
No, I mean we do want to expand, but within like serving men. We do think that there's, like I said, there's a behavior component that there's a lot going on in what it means to be a man today. Things are changing a lot. There's a lot of unknowns, and we do believe that there's a space for us to cater to men that are in this journey and trying to do a better job, both by taking care of themselves or being a better partner by taking care of themselves too. So yes, our mission is within, like, we want to expand a lot, but within what we believe man needs, because I think there's a lot of unmet needs.
You've expanded into undergarments recently as well, right?
We do, yes.
Yeah.
But and that's because like taking care of the groin, we needed to have like that crowning moment of the perfect fabric, after you do your routine. So yes, it was important.
I cannot wait to see that creative.
Yeah.
There's
Just for the folks that maybe will hear a recording, great question. It was, we've been talking about the brand Manscaped, and how do you think about the difference between being a house of products versus a house of brands? I hope I've collected your question correctly.
Yeah, no, and that's a great question, and it is like a big change for us. Like when we started, it was a white space. There was no groin trimmer, so we invented it. We were like the pioneers, and we are still the leaders in that space. But then a few years later, now we are entering a super crowded space where we are the challengers, and it's a technology that has more than 100 years, so it's hard to do like hardcore innovation in that space. But we do believe that there's a lot of things that can be improved, both on the functional level, and that's what our products try super hard to do. But then there's also, that's where I think the brand becomes super important. For example, on the shaving space, in our like Manscaped opinion, it's a pretty boring space. Everything is about like technical or perfect, like the perfect chiseled look. And we see that men want a break. Like they want a little bit of a softer tone, like a little bit of humor. Come on, let's have some joy doing something that is a chore. So we do that through the design of our products, like being more kind of in an elevated design. It's not like the technical function too, techy. It has a little bit of a sexiness to it, but also in our communication, like from the packaging to the name of the products to how we promote those behaviors. I think it's just not taking ourselves too seriously has been proving for us to be very powerful connection with our consumers. Like they all like celebrate and they thank us for like, oh, thank God that that we can be a little more joyful while shaving.
I love it. Joy while shaving. All right. For the sake of time, I recognize there's one more panel between all of us and lunch. So Marcelo, thank you so much for joining us
Sarah.
today.
Oh,
Well
thank
done.
you. Great. Thank you.